live event. We are joined here by Leila Zayed, who is the Vice President of the Best Companies Group, and we are excited to have her on the call today. We're going to be talking about the best places to work in multifamily program. And before I get started, I just want to say thank you for joining us here today. The fact that you're here means not only a lot to me, but our industry. That means that you respect and understand the value of people. So it means a lot to us that you're here, and we just really thank you for joining us on this message. Before we get started, I want to give you kind of a 30,000-foot view of how this program came about. It's been about 2 years in planning, brainstorming, and timing about how and when we make this available to our industry. You know, when we go to conferences and we see content about how to drive a better customer experience or resident experience, there's many conferences on how to figure out how to attract new residents and work with new technologies and things like that. And same with high-end conferences that we have come to know that are talking about, you know, how to generate more net operating income or maximize value and understand new technologies as they come into play on how we operate management companies. But what we know is that having the best quality team in place allows that management company the best effort to generate successful resident experiences and also financial results for those property owners. So what we thought of is, you know, being the founder of multifamilyjobs.com for the last 2 years, we've really pivoted on how we approach the business. And instead of just being an advertiser, we are looking at really solving for what companies really need, and that's great people. And so after just listening to some of the pains and frustrations that people are going through in just advertising, finding the right people, you know, dealing with turnover issues, you know, new technologies, and also all the new talk about millennials and age groups in the industry, we've discovered that people are understanding the value of teams, the value of an internal culture. We know that there's much content that's being produced about workplace culture, quality of life, work-life balance, these types of things. And so the best places to work in multifamily program came about as when we had a conversation with the Best Companies Group. We've researched a lot of platforms to figure out how to deliver this in a high-quality way. And that's when I met Leila and her group and spent time with not only the founders and the presidents of their group, but we've found a great match to deliver a high-quality measurement of what it takes to win in multifamily. And so we're going to be talking about the process, really, what's going to, you know, what the process looks like for you to be involved in this. Also, later on, we're going to be talking about really what you're going to get out of it, you know, what you could expect. What's, you know, how is it going to integrate into my work life? Am I going to have to, you know, what forms am I going to fill out? Those types of things, and then maybe we'll talk a little bit more at the end towards the value and how to position yourself to maximize it. So with that, what I'd like to do is introduce you to Leila Zayed. She's joining us on the call. Leila is, again, the Vice President of Best Companies Group. She's got 10 years of looking at and measuring some of the best companies you've come to know on what it takes to create those internal benchmarks and measurements, and she has just an incredible amount of data at her fingertips. But today we're going to be talking about this report and this program and how you can benefit from participating. So Leila, thank you and welcome to the call.
Thank you for having me, Patrick.
So the first question I want to talk to you about is, and you know, I know a lot of people are this is new, it's a new program for multifamily, and so they're asking, you know, really, what's the process look like to us? So what is a management company going to go through? Can you take us through the process of the Best Places to Work program?
Absolutely. So the first thing that, you know, our participants in Best Places to Work in multifamily will want to consider is whether or not they're eligible for the program, right?
Right.
So in order to be eligible, you'll need to have a minimum of 500 units under management, as well as at least 15 employees. and those employees need to be in the US or Canada. Also, at least half of your revenue needs to come exclusively from property management, right? So the next step, of course, is to register, and you can do that on Best Places to Work in multifamily.com. And your registration fee, it pays for the survey of your employees, your analysis of your employer, as well as employee data. Consideration.
So, Leila, let me interrupt and ask a question. So, the registration fee, I mean, the cost of this is so minimal to what you're going to outline in what they're going to get as a report all alone. I mean, and I made the analogy earlier as we were talking about, if people are paying $400 to post a job on Monster.com, or the amount of money that people are spending to recruit, train, retrain people is a real problem and a real issue for operators. It's getting harder to manage. It's getting harder to, management fees are constantly scrutinized. Management companies are trying to do their best to improve their bottom lines, things like that, and the cost to recruit is very expensive. So it's like 2 job posts for your whole company to participate in the process.
That's right.
It's a no-brainer.
Our average registration fee is $800. And you're right, you get a lot for that. I couldn't even get halfway through my list of what you get for that before you interrupted me to talk about money.
Yes. Well, you'll find that I do that often. But hey, that is that's why we're on the call today. But okay. So what else?
All right. So we don't just survey your employees. Also, you're up for consideration in becoming one of the best places to work in multifamily, and that designation is a designation you can use in all of your, marketing and recruitment materials.
Okay, so you're gonna again hate me for this, but I'm gonna interrupt you in your process. We're talking about process, and I'm interrupting the process. That's a no-no.
Yep. Anti-process.
So you had mentioned that not only do they get the data, the report, but also the potential, being ranked and celebrated in what we'll talk about later in the annual program and things of that nature. But the data, in terms of confidentiality, this is an important point because a lot of companies are really doing their best to really drive better internal culture, those types of things, and so they use SurveyMonkey and they try and attempt to approach this process on their own. And I've been on that end. I've received those surveys. Hey, what do you think of your boss? Yeah, right. And so when there's a third party involved, and we don't even see the data, but when there's a third party involved, they really get the confidence in the confidentiality, correct? And that gives you a better idea of the data, the real data, and then at that point, once you know the data, you have solutions that you can play to correct that. But can you talk to us about really the benefits of using a third party to evaluate?
Absolutely. I've had experiences like that too, where I've created, in previous roles, created surveys on SurveyMonkey, and I've been served them as well. And that's how I know that they're not quite a confidential process. You can see who filled out what. And that's great, though. I mean, it comes from a great place in the heart, or at least in the intention of the employer. They want to know what their employees are thinking because they want to do well. The reason to work, there are a number of reasons to work with a third-party research firm, and one of those, of course, is confidentiality. Number one, you want the viability of your data to be really strong, and so you want your employees to feel very comfortable answering exactly the way they feel, because that's how you're going to get what you really want out of this process, right?
And also, you know what questions to ask, right? I mean, that's part of the problem, is knowing what do I ask, right? I mean, in this process to get the best improvement.
You're absolutely right. So at Best Companies Group, we do Best Places to Work programs all over the country. But in addition to that, we do independent surveys for a number of employers. And so sometimes they'll share with us the employee surveys that they have done previously, and many of those are internal, internally executed. And so one of the most common mistakes that we see are sort of double questions, where you have one question that asks a number of things at the same time, and there's really no way for your respondent to answer it. And so it can be very confusing, not just for them, but also for the folks who are trying to understand the data that they receive.
Right. So tell me, did we cover everything in the process? As I interrupted you, do you want to go over again the process that the management company will go through in registry?
Yeah, let me just tell them what to expect. So, so you'll go onto the website and you'll register, and then it won't be until the program begins, and that will be at the end of October that registration closes, October 31st, right? And so at that time, that's when the survey process actually launches. And so it's in Q4 of 2014 that your HR department will be called upon to fill out the employer survey, and that is a very thorough collection of information regarding your policies and benefits and other architectural information about your organization. And that's handled by you administratively. And then after that, we survey your employees. So the way that works typically is you send to us the employee addresses, of all of your staffers. We send out a hyperlink to the survey, and they go online and go ahead and complete that survey. The survey is less than 100 questions, where we're measuring levels of agreement with statements. And so it's a pretty quick process for your employees. 5 minutes, maybe 10. It depends on there is one open comment. And so depending on how thoughtful your employee is when they're responding to that, it could take 5 to 10 minutes.
That's great. And where do those open comments go? I mean, the employer gets them, or how does that?
We produce a comment report, and so it's really wonderful because again, it protects the confidentiality of each of those employees, but gives the employer an opportunity to see what kind of feedback their employees want to give them, specifically about what they're doing well.
Okay, so if somebody has a comment, the company knows the comment was made, but they don't know who made it?
That's right. Oh,
okay, good. All right, wonderful. Well, that's good to know. As a leader, I mean, that's information I want to know, because it's I've been studying communication for a long time, and it's like, it doesn't matter what you say or what your vision is. It's like, what's being received. At the end of the day, if this is how, this is the presence of the organization, and you have an opportunity to improve upon that. That's great. Okay, so after they register, and they're registering.
There's a little bit more to my process. That's right.
Oh, there is?
There is. Well, so we collect all of that information. I like to make it simple.
I know it's simple.
But then once we've collected the information, of course, we like to report on it. So at that time, we'll be generating back at Best Companies Group, we'll be generating reports for every company that's participated in Best Places to Work in Multifamily. Those feedback reports include an employee demographic report, which we'll talk about in a couple minutes, as well as benchmark reports against all the other participating companies in the program. So you'll get to see how you measure up to other companies in your category, in your size category, broken down by those companies that made the list and those that did not make the list. And that can be a really useful tool for seeing where you sit, amongst your peers. Also, you'll receive your comment report, which we just talked about.
Oh, wonderful.
Mm-hmm. And then there's more to my process.
You had a pause. I was gonna jump right in.
No, don't do it. So Best Companies Group will then contact each of the companies that are participated in Best Places to Work in Multifamily to let them know whether or not they've made the list. Okay. And so those companies that have not made the list still, of course, receive all of their reports, all of their data, and that is kept completely confidential. Nobody knows that you've participated in this program unless you make the list. Now, for those companies who have made the list, everybody's going to know that you've made the list. So the next step there is the creation of a publication that profiles all of the winners of Best Places to Work in Multifamily. And Patrick, I understand you have some plans to really, run with that list and share with the world who the best places are to work in multifamily.
Yeah, in fact, I'll tell you that for many, many years we've been celebrating the largest and the most units and things like that in the market. Who has the largest portfolio and who has the most amount of units, or who owns the most amount of units, and that's been wonderful. And in fact, the Multifamily or National Apartment Association and the National Multifamily Housing Council has put together some great reports on ranking top management companies, top owners in the industry, and we want to take that and pick up where they've left off and really talk about those that are top in the employment culture and top employers. So this is going to be a collaborative effort. We're trying to reach out to all the apartment associations, which we're receiving some good feedback, and also the management companies and our industry sponsors. Now, this is a program just for the management companies, but the sponsors can be involved in this program. So if you're a sponsor and you're watching and you want to really help, you're the ones out there talking to these employers, you're the ones that know the great teams and the great leaders out there. If you want to be involved in that process, you can certainly email us, contact@multifamilytalentsummit.com, and let us know how you want to support, because this is going to be a way that you can advance leadership in the apartment industry and also celebrate your clients' success and really bring out those that are, and you know who they are, the ones that are just doing great things, they're doing things in the community, and they're just excited about their company. People that are working there are just thriving and becoming better leaders. They're growing, and we want to hear about those companies because we want to not only celebrate them at the Multifamily Talent Summit, but also in this publication. Now, the Best Companies group is going to be supporting us in the data and evaluating and measuring those things. And the sponsors' involvement, I think, can really make this publication really something special, because it's something that I think is going to sit in the lobbies of the management companies. It's going to be online, digital, and it's just going to be something that has sort of pride and value around. We won, or we not won, but we made the list, and we were honored for this, and we want to make this a real prestigious thing. This isn't something that we can do all by ourselves. We're going to need your support, your help, and I just ask you to reach out if you value people in the apartment industry. You know how you started, and it's important to recognize that this is not only financially beneficial because it drives results for the resident and the property owner, but this is a great way for management companies to position themselves as a great place to work. And I'm an asset manager, so I know when I'm looking at hiring at a property management company, if someone's a best employer, that means I'm going to have the best people, and that means I'm going to generate the best results. So this is a great way for management companies, with all the consolidation and transactions that are happening, to really position themselves in a distinct way. Say, look, we're a top employer. These are the things we're committed to, and we're going to drive results for you and acquire new management accounts. So the program, Leila, you're talking about, I'm really excited about that. It's going to be a robust program. I can't be more excited about. I've seen the work that has gone into the production. I've seen the actual report and rankings, and we can talk about that on a whole nother call, but that'll be something to get really sponsorship excited about. So anyway, sponsors can reach out to us directly. They know how to get a hold of us, and we would encourage their involvement. It's nothing better to be an industry partner and know that you can integrate your message and really support your clients in a way that's meaningful, that is not selling another product, but it's really recognizing the client. I mean, who doesn't like to be nominated or included or treated with respect, to say this is something you need to participate in because we know you guys are great, and we'd love to hear some feedback on that as well. So, all right. So what's next?
Well, why don't we show folks an example of some of these reports that we've been
Okay.
talking about. Because
I'll roll into the demographic report,
great.
and we can start with that. And you should be able to see on screen the demographic report.
Yes. All right. So, let me just take a moment to explain what we're looking at here. Oh, I'm back to you, Patrick.
I know. Hold on. I'm doing this all by myself.
You're doing great.
Can you believe that?
All right.
Are you have the screen up?
I do. I also have your webcam.
Yeah, you know what? Now you know what kind of camera I'm using. Dang it. I knew that was going to happen.
I'm going to do my best to figure out a way to monetize that particular piece of information. In the meantime, I'm going to explain this employee demographic report to folks here. So, when you participate in Best Places to Work in Multifamily, this will be the output of your employee survey. So remember, there are two important pieces of data collection. One is your employer questionnaire, and that's where your HR department completes information about your policies and benefits, et cetera. And then the second part is your employee engagement and satisfaction survey. And this is the result of that. Now, Patrick, would you mind panning out just a little bit so we can see the whole report, and then we'll zoom in here?
Yeah, it's quite intense.
I know it feels intense at first. I know it does, but I just want to show folks that really this is 2 pages, and it looks like a whole lot of numbers, but really what it is a collection of slightly less than 100 statements, and we measure levels of agreement by asking your employees, do they strongly agree, feel neutral, disagree, or strongly disagree with the statement. And so I'd like to take you through just one of these statements to give you a sense of how you might use this information as either a marketing, PR, recruitment, retention, or management tool. So this first statement, I understand the long-term strategy of this organization. Patrick, you mentioned earlier the importance of really knowing how to put together a question. There's an awful lot that goes into that. Not only is it knowing how to ask a question that is direct and straightforward so that the answer is really captured, but also it's about understanding what goes into measuring employee engagement and satisfaction. So I understand the long-term strategy of this organization. If you look to the right of that, you see the first column, the first 2 columns here. These are overall levels of agreement with this statement. You'll notice that 95 is the level here on this sample. Let's pretend that instead of 95% agreement on this statement, we had, say, 54% agreement on the statement, I understand the long-term strategy of this organization. From that, you might decide that in order to increase your levels of employee engagement and satisfaction, that you would address this, from an executive standpoint. And so strategically, you would then build a plan to do so by sharing context with your employees. Now, here's how the report can really help you and become actionable as you make that plan. Patrick, would you pan out just a little bit, or rather scroll to the right?
So that's great. It's not about having low or high scores. It's what you can do with the information as you collect it.
I totally agree. Yeah, and you can see here that these responses are then broken down from overall into demographic categories. And we break down everything from age and gender, ethnic background, but also job role and department. So let's go back to that imaginary 54% agreement with I understand the long-term vision of leadership in this organization. You might discover that your accounting department, let's say, has an incredibly low score on that compared to, say, the maintenance department or whatever it is. This can really help you build out your plan to address that particular thing that we're measuring and affect change over the upcoming year before you register for the next Best Places to Work in Multifamily to then benchmark against your own results.
Wonderful. So hypothetically, an organization could effectively believe that they're doing all the right things to share their vision and message, but it might only be hitting the leasing teams or the people in the marketing departments, and they've, for whatever reason, because they're not tied to revenue or whatever component, they've left out either maintenance or accounting or these types of things, and they might not even have known that.
Yes, well, you're talking to a research junkie, right? And so I might say that we, from a management standpoint, might think that we're doing all the right things, but really, what are the right things? What's important is what's really happening in your organization, and this process is a great opportunity to be known as a best place to work in multifamily. But even more than that, it's an opportunity to really understand what's happening in your own organization so that you can become stronger.
Right, and so the participation is valuable, even if they're not achieving rank.
That's right.
Okay, so what else can we? So we have leadership and planning. What the categories here? We have corporate culture and communications, role satisfaction, work environment, relationship with supervisor, their training and development and resources, their pay and benefits, and their overall engagement. This is wonderful.
Let's go ahead and, Patrick, would you mind switching screens over to the benchmark report?
Absolutely.
I'd like to show folks how, the second part of their overall feedback report is this employee benchmark report. Now, as a participant in Best Places to Work in Multifamily, you'll receive two benchmark reports. The first is the employee benchmark report, which looks just very much like the demographic report we just had a look at. The same list of statements appear here. And so, again, let's look at, I understand the long-term strategy of this organization. And then you'll notice that we have broken into categories by these responses by the size of the company. Now, these are your peers who have participated in the same program. So let's say you're a small company. One thing that we've heard before is, well, how are we going to compete against these large companies with these giant budgets and all this exciting stuff that they do? Well, it's really, it's not about how big your company is or how large your budget is. It's about whether or not your employees understand the long-term strategy or long-term vision of your company. So this can be a really exciting way to level the playing field for smaller or leaner companies, if you will. So imagine now that you're a small company, right, and maybe you have 150 employees, and you can measure your own overall levels of agreement with this statement, and maybe that was 54%, maybe it was 95%, against companies that made the list. In this case, that's 96% agreement, and companies who didn't make the list, which is 84% agreement.
This is great. This is great, so, great data.
As you isolate in your own demographic report those statements that you might like to affect change in, you can then go to the benchmark report and look at those same statements and see how you measure up against your peers.
Oh, wonderful. And you don't know which peers, you just know it's just the data. It's not like, oh, we're better than X or less than, and I'm not a researcher, so I don't know. That's wonderful.
It's not just the confidentiality of your employees that we're concerned with. It's also the confidentiality of your organization that we're concerned with.
That's great. That's great. And anything else you want to share on the employee benchmark report before we move on?
No, I think that's good. But I would like to point out that while we won't pull it up and have a look at it right now because it's a bit thick, the second benchmark report that you receive when you participate in Best Places to Work in Multifamily is the employer benchmark report. And that employer benchmark report also confidentially shares, the sort of global results of other participating companies and the percent that are offering this benefit or that benefit to really help you understand how benefits and other company policies come into play for Best Places to Work in Multifamily and those that did not make the list.
That's great. That's great. So let's go back to the question of Okay, so you participate in this program, and you go through the process, and you get a better perspective of how to essentially move and manage forward with better information, better data. What are some of the things that you're seeing that companies are using to leverage this type of process into how they market to get new customers, or even in the recruiting process?
Oh my gosh, I've seen companies use this in so many different ways. Of course, whenever you are recruiting, this is an opportunity to take that logo and put it on everything. It's on your website, it's on your press releases, it's on your job postings, it's on your careers page, it's on mugs, it's on t-shirts, you give it to your employees, it's on their email signatures. I mean, you just take that logo and you put it everywhere. And what I've also seen is companies like to participate year after year and earn the accolade year after year. And so there's an object of recognition, that they might put in their lobby and have a whole collection of them. They have, and you make a show of it on your website as well. Of course, you put out a press release. I mean, it's endless, the opportunities to get out there. And actually, we provide a tool, a one-pager, that's 20 or 25 ways to promote your, your accolade.
Very good, very good. And so in the process, management companies, they can go through this program and then use it almost, we all know, I think, that it's going to improve business. Mm-hmm. And it sends a message to your organization also that you're serious about developing them, you're serious about investing in the employees, and you really want to drive and support growth. And so that's obviously a message that goes through just being involved in this process. But really, even beyond, I think, all the promotional stuff, like we were awarded this designation, things like that. But it seems to me that if someone's looking for an apartment or looking for a new place to live, and this company has the best employees, or has been nominated or even awarded this designation, that would give me a higher level of confidence, knowing that they're going to take care of my needs when the time comes, when a maintenance work order comes in, or I have to relocate to a different unit, these types of things. So I think it delivers a unique distinction too in how to drive revenue or results through attracting new residents into the units, or absorbing new units, things like that. So customer acquisition, bottom line, I think would be also a benefit, if I might add. Are there? Okay.
I was just going to say that I agree, and I see, and I do see evidence of that across industries, across programs, across the country. I think banks are also, banking and multifamily, the industries are quite different in some ways, but in some ways, perhaps they're similar, and that is that they have a really strong interface with their customer, right? And so I see a lot of banks that participate in, and carry the designation of best places to work in banking, have that designation in a really proud place, so that their customers know that they really care about being a quality place to work.
Very good, very good. Am I leaving any questions out? What questions should I be asking I'm not asking? I know that a lot of the feedback we're getting is it's just a new process. They're unfamiliar with who's involved in doing this. Do you want to expand on how the Best Companies group supports? I mean, I know you talked about the process, but really...
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So, so back at the ranch, we have a dedicated program coordinator who will work with all of the companies that take part in the process of Best Places to Work in multifamily, and her name is Michelle Grosso. And so she'll be sort of on standby, ready to answer any of your questions about registration or the process while you're in the process, to even help with response rates to make sure that you're getting the most out of your survey process. And
okay, so let me interrupt that. Mm-hmm. You also have the option, which it seems like isn't being selected as much as it used to be, but the option of doing paper surveys or for people that don't have email addresses, things like that?
That's right. So we handle not having email addresses in a number of ways. You're right. We've been around for about 10 years, and so you can imagine when we really started getting into this business, there was a lot of paper and little online, and it's really gone like this. So we are now doing mostly online surveys, but we do have a paper process if that's what's most appropriate for your company. These days, I would say it's pretty rare that we do paper surveys, and more likely that we have a company that has a mix of departments. Some of the employees, or rather the employees in some departments, have company email addresses, and that's important too. It's important that they have company email addresses. We don't want to send this to personal email addresses because we'll get stuck behind firewalls and all that. Right. So company email addresses, but then you have some departments that maybe don't have company email addresses. Like maybe your maintenance department doesn't have a company email address for each of those employees. So one of our solutions, rather than going to paper, which can be incredibly cumbersome, and one of the most important reasons it's cumbersome is that it has a lower response rate than an online survey, is we set up a kiosk. So that would be a designated workstation in a common area or in an area that is easy to access throughout the workday for the respondents in the department that don't have company email addresses. Also,
you guys have this down.
Yeah, we've done it once or twice. That's right. Also, we'll leave your survey open for 2 weeks, which we find is ample time to have a really good response rate.
That's good. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do you want to talk about the program and how, at the end of this, we can sort of package and celebrate through this annual report that is going to be produced? Do you have anything you want to share on that?
Sure. You mean the publication itself?
Yes, the publication that ultimately we'll be talking about later on when we get closer to that. But yeah, the publication.
Okay. So the way the publication is set up, it will feature the stories of each of the companies that have made the best places to work in multifamily list. And it's a really neat publication. I mean, these are the organizations that are doing exceptional work in their area, and they love what they do, and you can tell. And so when reading the stories about companies who carry the designation of best places to work in multifamily, you'll learn what's unique about each of these companies and what they really do to be a great place to work.
Ooh, that's interesting, because here's one of the challenges that multifamily operators have, and it's not. I mean, we're in a situation where finding top employees is competitive, and it's getting more competitive because the good candidates, the ones that really are capable and really want to win for companies, they have the makeup and the personality and the culture fit for these groups, have choices. In other words, the game has changed. There's more places. You can't find them in one place anymore. We used to just post a job and then see what happens, and we're talking about reviewing resumes. Now there's many more social channels to handle, many new technologies, applicant tracking systems, and an influx of technology that's disrupting how this process is changing. And what that means is when you apply and you go and try and find a job at Zappos or Google or some of these new emerging companies, they're making it really exciting and interesting in this process. So the multifamily industry is, in my opinion, and I'm just putting it out there, is we have to attract good people. When I started in the business, I didn't go to school and say, I want to become a property manager. I want to manage real estate assets. In fact, I had no idea I was going to do this. And once I got into the industry and learned the value of what we're doing for not only communities, local communities in terms of driving revenue to local merchants and things like that, but also providing a home for people. I think there's more than 35 million Americans that rent. That number is going to increase, and there's a big pressure with the amount of units that they're developing in future years on that we need people. And we need great people to operate these companies and these assets. And if we can do something that allows, and we're going to do that even with this interview and more leadership series interviews with top leaders, to attract people to the industry as a whole, right? Like when people are looking at what career they want to get involved in, where they want to spend their time, because if you think about it, we spend an awful lot amount of time at work. And if we do that, it's nice to know that you're working with a company that understands the team and has a clear communication and vision and things like that. And so the program, I guess what we're calling it, is going to be a great tool just from a leadership standpoint to just give back to the industry that has served us so well, to say, hey, this is an industry to pay attention to. It's a more than $1 trillion industry. It's important to our economy, and you can do something in its industry. I know people, I started in collecting coins in a laundry room back before they had swipe cards and all that stuff. I'm not that old, but I was right at that point where it made that shift. But anyway, the point is, people have done really well in this industry, and I'm proud of what I've been able to do in it and the people that I've been able to influence in the organizations. And I think that people looking for jobs, the more information they have on what a quality industry it is, what a quality workplace people are creating, and what people can do to really become more as individuals, is important. And so this program, I think, is a real great celebration tool for that. Again, going back to the sponsors, would love to have sponsorship support on carrying that message, because really that's where the innovation lies in the industry. And so anyway, I'm going off on a rant here because I'm so passionate about this, but the reality is, beyond making your own company greater and showing your employees that they matter and that you're willing to listen and then do something about that information, is impactful, and it will set you apart from being just someone that generates rents and collects rents and goes about their way. You'll be able to drive better returns for your investor owners. You'll be able to drive a better resident experience, and save operating costs, reduce your turnover, and really provide a great value to the employees that work there. So I'm really excited about this, and I'm looking forward to talking more. In fact, you're speaking, correct, at the well, I know this. You're speaking at the Multifamily Talent Summit coming up, and I'm really excited to have you speak at that process as well. Okay, so what else am I leaving out before I sign off here and talk about how they can learn more and get registered, because that's what's most important. Tell us why they need to do that now.
Well, I was just going to say, Patrick, that really it's because we do such a volume of these things, every year, all over the country, in every industry, for companies of every size. This is an incredibly affordable registration rate. I mean, at an average of $800 per registration. Why not give it a shot? So consider going to Multifamily or Best Places to Work in Multifamily.com and doing that. And if you do have questions specifically for the Best Places to Work in Multifamily program, give Michelle a call. She's ready to answer your questions. She's at 877-455-2159. And I just want to say thank you to you, Patrick, for having me here today.
Oh, absolutely. And you've been very helpful in showcasing the value and the process and what people will expect in this support. You guys do a wonderful job of supporting, and I'm really excited to not only be partnering with you guys on this, but to it elevates the value that we can really add to, again, the industry and these employers. So below this video, you're going to see a link on how to get started. And what I would encourage you to do is go ahead and click on that link and hop on over to Best Places to Work in Multifamily.com, and you will find all the information. There's a timeline, there's a registration process, and there's samples of the reports that we were talking about today. And what you can do is, if you're watching this webinar and you know that someone else needs to hear what's happening on this, you could forward them the link, and we will give them access to the replay. And oftentimes, there's leaders that need to sort of sell within the value of this, and it's so hard to give the fire hose of information. You can print out these reports and provide them access to this webinar, and hopefully they can find value when they can, because maybe they missed it today, and they can register and watch this at a more convenient time. So I would encourage you to do that. If you're a sponsor or you're an industry partner and you serve the multifamily industry, please reach out to us. We'd love to have your support at the Multifamily Talent Summit, because this first inaugural year is going to launch a 2-year campaign to really promote and you really add value to these multifamily management companies. So you can participate in that, and also in this annual program that Leila was just talking about. So with that, my email address, or an email address where you can contact us with questions, or if you have interview recommendations, people that are winning in the apartment industry that you think would be valuable, send us an email to contact@multifamilytalentsummit.com. Or you can call us at 1-800-617-8956. And again, we'll put in the message notes the information that Leila shared in terms of her team and how she can support you. So anyway, we will open it up to questions. There should be a way to submit a question below. If you want to do that, I would encourage you to do that. And if we don't get to them today, then we would certainly like to answer your questions via email, or if you want to leave your phone number, we can do that as well. But please, we encourage you to do that. In addition, social, we always likes, right? So like this, share it on Facebook, share it in Google+, Twitter, your LinkedIn world, wherever it is, and help us spread the word, because this isn't about this is about raising or elevating the industry, elevating the approach to the industry and the companies within them. So with that, I will sign off, and we look forward to talking to you more at the Multifamily Talent Summit. Thank you.